What is up, guys? Pizza Boy here. It has been a long time since I've made a video. I think it's been a few months. Last time I was on YouTube, I had a F56 JCW 2016. That car was amazing. Oddly enough, I decided to get rid of that car for a lot of different reasons. Nothing that it was bad. It wasn't a negative car to have. It's just, it was a bit, you know, we'll go into that in a different video. Some people might think this is a downgrade, but I think it's actually a massive upgrade in a lot of ways. Let me just introduce this to you. The 2004 Mini Cooper MC40. This car is insanity. Now, I've owned a few Minis in my life, 3 to be exact, including this one. I've had the F56 JCW. I've also had an R56 S 2013. Heavily modified. I'll put a picture up here or whatever if you guys follow me on Instagram. And, you know, Minis are awesome. I love Minis. And I wanted to go over a few things, so just like a quick little review of it. I'll do a 5 things I hate and 5 things I love in separate videos. But it's just like a little overview about why I like the car, everything I like about it, and just like a overview, you know? So let's start with the exterior real quick. There's absolutely no denying, you know, I used to love the R56 exterior body, because I thought the shape just looked better. Like, I think it was just refined. But after owning this one for a little over a month now, I honestly think this is the best looking one so far. I think the R53s were just perfect enough where they're still mini. Like, the F56 that I had was big, and was no denying it looked like a Mini, but it was still a big car, you know? So there were just some things about it that were just larger. Like, it had the Mini badge, but it was still a massive sedan, you know, or a hatchback, whatever you want to call it. So I think in the essence of Mini Cooper, this car is fantastic for that. And we'll go over a few little things here. So MC40, super rare. They only made about 1,000 of these cars, only for the US market, to pay tribute, I should say, to the 40th anniversary of the Mini Cooper brand, or the Mini brand, winning the Monte Carlo Rally 40. And so there's a few little details. So even though this may be one of the rarest ones they've ever made, it doesn't mean that it's like the most high performance, right? So at least from my spec here, from what I can tell, came with JCWs. I have 18s right there. He had some rally lights that came with it from the factory. The interior is completely is like black and red. I'll show it to you real quick. We'll dive into this later, but oh, there's the pizza dog. But black and red interior. I think this thing looks awesome from the inside. Very classy. Other thing as well that's notable that came with the MC40 is all the chrome trim. So normally on S's, you know, yet again, keep in mind I've only had an R56 and an F56. This is the first 53 I've had, so just kind of keep that in perspective real quick. But from what I can tell so far, the chrome pieces that came with this are obviously the S chrome right here, the chrome around these lights, which normally this is what they are for normal Minis. If you're a Mini fan, you know these are usually chrome. I blacked out mine when I had my F56. Obviously the grille is all chrome on the bottom there, grill through there. Also, this trim is always silver, as you know, unless you order it from the factory black, which was only for the newer ones. Then also these mirror caps are chrome and silver, and I think they really add to the classiness of this car. And then obviously the handles are chrome as well. It's kind of weird. There is some trim on these lights, but they're on the inside. I've never noticed that before. Badges are chrome. Back part of this is chrome, and you know, I kind of think, so yet again, F56, R56, the wings on the JCW that I previously had was massive in comparison to this guy right here. So I'm definitely going to add either like a massive aftermarket wing that's going to be like a weld-on or something. We'll think about that later. The wing on this one I think is just a tad bit too understated for me. I mean, I get it, it's the first version of this reincarnation of Mini, and I think it looks great in the sense of like a retro car, right? But I think it just needs to be a little bit more aggressive just for my taste. But I think, you know, if you were to keep it stock, I think this car looks fantastic. Obviously this thing it looks absolutely rubbish right now because I haven't cleaned any of it since I bought it. The winter here in Utah, I don't know if you can tell, the salt just devastates these cars, and it's destroyed my car so far, and you know, it used to look very pretty beforehand. So the car's just really unique. I like the idea that there's less of these in the US right now than there are first generation GP cars. I mean, there were only like 1,300 that came to the US for those, from what I can remember, and only 1,000 of these. So there's less of these in the US than there are of the GPs, which are the hardcore version. Now, in the sense of performance and stuff from the factory, this is a normal Cooper S. This is just like a package that it was, just like the specialty package, which, you know, most people would rather have more performance, especially for a Mini, but I think in a fun little deal, this was kind of, it's cool, you know, it's classy. Normally I would clean this up, but, you know, it's my daily right now, so I kind of have everything in there, and you guys understand it is what it is. So, the interior, this leather, I love these seats so much. They're so comfortable, but also the color scheme is fantastic. At first I thought it was like a blue. When I first got it, it kind of is like a hint of blue, like a dark blue, but it is a black, I believe. It goes really well with the you know, with the rest of the trim. No sunroof in this one, since it's like a rally version. It's supposed to be like lightweight. Also, it came with this decal, the John Cooper Works decal with the carbon fiber dash, which I think is a really, really cool touch. And it just kind of makes it a little bit more unique. The carbon fiber on this one is kind of coming out, like at least the protective cover is coming out a little bit. I might get all this redone. It's also bubbling on this side here, which, you know, it's like a 20-year-old car right now, so it is what it is. Also, for the 40th anniversary, since this is the 40th anniversary, it's this, you know, it has like a bunch of little 40-year decals, like on the knob here, 40-year decal. On the inside of these mats, 40 years. But besides that, there's no other indication that this is a 40th anniversary. So unless you're like a Mini fanboy like I am, or anybody else for that matter, you're not going to know that this is an MC40. And there's no like Monte Carlo badging or anything on this car on the exterior. So in essence, it's just a standard Cooper S, just with little hints about the heritage of the car, which it's kind of like understated, which I think is kind of cool, but I also wish it was a little bit more flashy, like the JCWs are. So I'm definitely going to be doing a driving review of this car, which will be in a separate video, but let me just give you a few things and differences that I think are very important between this generation, the R56 that I owned, and also the F56. The F56 JCW that I had was amazing. That car by far was perfect in every way you can think of, because it was so refined, so well thought through. Every detail was meticulous. The interior quality was phenomenal in comparison to the previous car I had before. So the jump between that car and this car is drastic. So to compare to them is pretty crazy, because they're like 20 years apart, two different generations, two different versions of the same brand, you know, that kind of stuff. But this car is scary to drive, to say the least. And I mean scary in a sense where it's like 0 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour is like the fun peak, where it's like, you know, after that it just gets, you drone it out or whatever. But 0 to 45 with this supercharged engine is awesome. And the F56 JCW that I had before was fast as hell. Like, and I mean, that was a properly fast car for the size. It was not underpowered. It had more than enough power to throw that thing into corners, but it also was a heavy car. The F56 is it's bigger, right? It's longer, it's wider. There's so many more safety features involved. It's heavier in almost every category. But it wasn't underpowered. But at the same time, you could feel it in the corners. Honestly, you could feel the turn-in was heavier. You could feel the weight going into it and stuff. But on the highway, that thing surpasses this car 100 times over. Like, it's 500% better on the freeway than this thing is. This thing is super lightweight, super rickety. And, you know, I don't know if that's just because my car's old, but yet again, this car weighs hundreds of pounds lighter than the larger, newer versions of the Mini brand, the Mini cars. So there's a big difference with that. The supercharger on this car is crazy. I love the 3,000 to 5,000 RPM range. Thing freaking zips like none other. And through the city, it's probably the funnest car I've owned so far out of all the Minis I've ever had. I mean, the R56 was awesome to have. Super fun. The turbo is great. Really good on gas. But this supercharger whine, honestly, there's nothing that compares to it. I cannot compare it to anything else. The maintenance, though, however, so I'm on a Mini forum. I'm on like a few Mini Facebook pages, and one of my favorite things is when people post their cost of maintenance for these cars. People treat these cars like they're Hondas, and they'll take them to, you know, discount mechanics and all that stuff, and they worry in there, and they always complain about how much it costs to maintain, when it's like, well, if you pay cheap people to fix this car cheaply, it's going to run cheaply. If you pay a qualified mechanic that knows what they're doing, that's BMW Mini certified, and you pay that extra cost, the car will run, and it will run flawlessly, which I've experienced in the past before. This car right now, as it sits, I still have like $6,000 worth of maintenance I have to do on it to make it so that it's flawless. Still drives just fine, but there's things that need to be fixed, like the axle, front and back axle need to be replaced, oil pan's leaking a bit. We had to replace the power steering pump and the steering like wires, which we just replaced. That cost like $2,500 just for that. So it's not a cheap car to maintain. Is it worth it? I think so. I mean, I wouldn't have bought this car for $5,000 knowing that it had $6,000 more to fix it and keep it, right? Like, it just doesn't make, like, to anybody else who's like bargain hunting for a used Mini for less than $5,000 and they're expecting it to be flawless is you're fighting, it's an uphill battle. It's not possible, okay? You're gonna be paying for maintenance for this car and it's gonna be expensive. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. I was on a forum the other day and somebody was complaining about the maintenance cost of their Mini, and I'm like, well, if you're complaining about the cost of the car, you probably shouldn't be owning the car, you know, if you can't afford it. That's just my take on it. So I just always think that's funny when people bring that up in forums. I'm just like, well, you probably should have bought a Civic or something. So if you are looking to buy this car, just know for a fact you will be paying BMW prices for their maintenance, for their repair costs, for the oil changes, all that stuff. I mean, unless you're mechanically inclined and you want to save some dollars, and if you trust yourself for it, obviously go down that route. But in basic maintenance terms, this car it's expensive to maintain. The maintenance does cost a pretty penny, but is it worth it in my opinion? Fuck yeah. This car is awesome. I don't care what it costs to maintain this car because it's so much fun. And I'll go through that in later videos, but anyway, that's my take on that. So I love that this car has dents in it. I know that some people, look, it already has scratches on it. It's one thing that I was really worried about. In comparison to the JCW I had before, the brand new JCW, in comparison to this one, is I'm not worried about this car getting dinged up, banged up, whatever it is. I bought this car to, like, winter rally, to tune the shit out of, to drive every single day, to drive hard. That's what I bought this car for. Because I could do that with the JCW, but all the parts of the JCW parts cost more money, like way more money than a standard Cooper part does, right? Like the brakes are bigger, those cost more money. I just thought that this car is like the fun car that I can tune and do whatever I want to, you know? So all the dings and stuff, I like that it just adds character to it, you know? So I guess the big question everybody's asking about is, should you buy an R56 S? I've owned this car for a month so far. I've owned every single generation of Mini Cooper so far, and if I were to go through any of them and rate them from funnest to least fun, or least funnest, whatever you want to call it, I would say this is number 1 for sure. R56, sorry, is number 2, and the F56 is number 3, only because the 56 was so well refined and so well thought through. The fun factor was already thought, like, it was unique, it was quirky, it was really fun. But this is just a different level of fun. This is like risky fun, like where you don't know if you're going to be coming back home alive after you drive it fun. Like, that's how crazy this car is. So is it worth it? I think so. If you can afford it, it's worth it. If you can't afford it, go somewhere else, because you're going to regret it, and your pocketbook is going to thank you if you're not really into this kind of stuff. So should you buy it? Absolutely. Fuck yeah, just do it. It's awesome. Alright guys, this is just a small little overview of my car. I have other videos I'm making today that I'm going to be posting as well on my channel, so like and subscribe if you guys want to see more of this car. We're going to go do a driving review real quick with the top 5 things I hate and love, and go check it out, and thanks for watching.